This is the story of different people with very different lives and souls, where each one seeks a way to overcome the conflicts that torment them in order to follow a new path. But how many of them will be able to achieve it? Let's start with the story of Lily, who, with her mother Samantha, has had to live in a shelter, where they have to fight every day to survive, since from the day Lily's father lost his life, she fell into a deep abyss. Finding herself plunged into so much sadness, she is forced to look for a job, but she is immediately fired from her due to lack of attention and inexperience, and since that day she has not been able to find another.
You don't believe
in God.
As a result of that, her faith is unshaken and she doubts the existence of God, blaming him for everything that happens in her life.
Why would he take him away from us? Leave her without a dad and with a mom who can't even take care of her most basic needs.
Adding to the fact that she was kicked out of the house where she lived, alone with her daughter Lily, she had to live the worst stage of her life, where her intense cold made Lily sick with a lot of coughing. And in a short time the little girl's health worsens, which makes her mother worry a lot, and she quickly takes her to the doctor. Once there, they meet Joe, the minister of a church, who is another soul who also has a story to tell. From the moment he sees Lily, a very special sympathy arises between them that makes Joe give her her place so that the girl is attended to first.
Lily, my spot.
As they leave, Joe offers them his apartment for the night, while he sleeps on a bench across the street. The next day Lily and her mother are very hungry and go to eat at the soup kitchen, where she meets Jedi, who together with his wife Terry are volunteers serving food. When they finish they sit at the table next to the girl and her mother. A beautiful friendship is born between them.
Do you always pray before your food, Mr. JD?
It's already late and it's very cold, so the girl tells Jedi that now they will have to sleep in the parking lot, in the orange jalopy. That's what they call their vehicle, since the shelter runs out of beds when it is very cold. Lily and Samantha, knowing what a terrible night they are going to spend, make themselves comfortable in the orange jalopy. But later, when it starts to rain, his very worried friend goes out looking for Lily and her mother. It wasn't too hard to find them from the description of the vehicle the girl had given her. Samantha, a little embarrassed, enters with Lily the house of her Jedi friend, the character of another sad story, who along with his wife Terry had lost their daughter, for which they were very sad, especially she who locked herself up after what happened in herself and was left without illusions or desire to live. Lily is delighted with how beautiful the room is and the huge amount of toys that belonged to Terry's deceased daughter. Because of Lily's charisma, it didn't take much to win the affection of Terry, whom she already wanted to call her grandmother, but her mother tells her that it's still early, that first you have to know if that relationship works.
I think we should thank Jesus anyway.
The girl thanks God for everything that happened that day, and she would like to stay in that house so that she is no longer afraid of going to that horrible bathroom at the shelter at night.
Do you want to thank Jesus, little mommy?
As the days go by, it is seen how the girl returns the lost happiness to Terry, seeing her having fun and very happy with the toys, cannot wait to interact with her in her games, enjoying every minute with Lily. On the other hand, Joe is also part of a story, because it turns out that he is very sick and goes to the doctor, because years ago, when he was in prison, he was diagnosed with leukemia and pardoned out of compassion. That same day a messenger arrives looking for Samantha to deliver a figure of an angel along with a farewell note for Lily. When Samantha reads it, she asks him about the destination of Joe's trip, which clarifies that it is not a trip, but that Joe is very bad, in the last days of the final stage of the cancer that he suffers from.
Joe's dying.
Surprised and saddened by the news, she asks the man to take her to Joe. Samantha arrives at the hospital to say goodbye to Joe. He confesses to her that she lost her family, and her little daughter, that she was like Lily after taking a bad path, and when she came back her daughter had already grown up and she didn't need her.
She was all grown up.
He feels guilty for not having been a good father. He was very selfish and he is not afraid of death because he accepted Jesus into his heart and he knows that God loves him. Samantha, very sad and crying, not knowing what to do to help him, accepts Joe's last request before leaving this world, which is to see Lily, even if she is one more time.
Sure.
For this reason they stay waiting for Lily to arrive. One of the more than thousands of stories, and very different from the one Lily and Terry experience, is that of Lacey, a girl who is rushed to the hospital with difficulty breathing. Upon arrival, she is seen by a doctor who diagnoses her with severe anaphylaxis and notices the multiple lacerations on her forearm, which indicates that the girl made an attempt on her life.
From the looks of things, she couldn't care less whether we save her or not.
After carrying out the pertinent checkup, the doctor talks with her, which tells her that the intake of the toxic substance has been accidental. Although he knows that she is not telling the truth, the doctor advises her to take good care of herself and discharges her.
Do you have someone to pick you up?
Alone and abandoned by her father, Lacey, she walks aimlessly down the street among so many people with different souls moving in different directions, searching for the meaning of life.
Please?
Already at home, after not having communication with his father, he does nothing but cry and plunge into depression.
No.
But something unexpected is about to happen that could change the course of his life, when as he approaches a bridge to make another attempt on his life, he unexpectedly meets Carl's, who also has a hard story that doesn't let him live. Since he is a former Marine who lives tormented by a trauma that he has been carrying since he participated in a war, where his best friend lost his life in front of him, and he feels guilty for not having done anything to save him. That nightmare doesn't let him live away from the people he loves because he doesn't feel worthy of them. It is for this reason that, just like her, he is on that same bridge to commit the same madness, but fate prevented the tragedy and they begin a beautiful friendship, where he feels understood and she no longer feels so alone. No. But after a short time he leaves her because he loves her and does not want her to suffer, since he feels that her nightmares do not let him live.
Adiós.
Before continuing this story, we will continue with one that is very common in cities today. As is the case of a boy named Pretty Boy, who is involved in criminal acts because of an old friend. One night, he follows the instructions of his friend, and commits a crime in a house where his friend kills some of the people who were inside.
Come on, hey.
However, Pretty Boy, full of fear because he knows that what he does is not right, and without his friend noticing, he saves the lives of the victims by letting them flee the place. Soon the police appear and finding himself cornered, the boy flees causing a chase. Upon arriving at the church he meets Joe, the pastor's assistant who gives Pretty Boy the opportunity to enter the church and thus give the first step to change your life. Pretty Boy with a cross in his hand promises God to change if he saves him from going to prison. So Pretty Boy not only went unnoticed but heard the pastor praying about the power of the cross.
Just an ideal, it is the way, it is the truth.
Then a repentant Pretty Boy decides to take the money from the robbery to the pastor so that he can use it for charity.
I can change me.
Immediately his friend finds out where the money is and to recover it he almost took the pastor's life, but in the end he repented and fled in search of Pretty Boy, and when he found him he complained to him for his betrayal.
And now you gonna go steal from me in front of
At
everyone.
that moment one of his enemies appears and attacks Pretty Boy's friend, but he defends him receiving bullet wounds. His friend hugs him crying desperately and tries to revive him, but there is nothing to do. Pretty Boy, dying, gives him a cross and stammers in a very low tone, "Just believe."
No. Percy!
Simultaneously, another person has a tragic accident. It is an atheist man who is about to lose his life, and while a paramedic named Bobby helps him and sees that there is nothing more to do for him, he hands him a cross and talks about Jesus. The resigned man asks God to take care of his family after passing away.
Can't feel anything.
His wife, who is also an atheist, cries inconsolably when she finds him dead, but her pain immediately turns to hatred when she sees the cross in her husband's hand.
What is this?
Days later when Bobby arrives at work, his boss informs him that the deceased's wife has sued the agency, alleging that Bobby refused to provide necessary care to a dying man until he accepted his religious beliefs.
You're going to craft a carefully worded apology.
Bobby refuses because he did the right thing and has no regrets, and if he was in the same situation again he would do it again.
But not before my professional duties as an EMT.
Bobby said the same thing to his wife, who at first is upset for fear of what his lawsuit might entail, but then she understands and supports him.
Well, it looks like you've made up your mind.
The day of the trial arrives and the prosecuting lawyer, in a very arrogant way, tells him that she took the case only for the money and to make people who try to impose their beliefs on others pay for it. At the end of the trial, Bobby loses the case just for having defended his faith. And the lawyer feels satisfied to have achieved her goal. There is still one more story left before the unexpected outcome and moral to which all these stories that will be found at the end lead. It is about Maggie, a pregnant girl who finds herself rummaging through a garbage can when a man named Matthew passes by who, upon seeing her, offers her support, food, and a room in a hotel, since his wife Grace did not want to accept her at home. But the next day Grace, sorry for not having received it, looks for the girl and takes her home.
Look, I'm really sorry.
On the way, Maggie tells her that she ran away from her house because they wanted to terminate her pregnancy, and she knows that this is wrong. The more they talked, the more they began to understand each other. Maggie already had in mind giving the baby up for adoption, while Grace, married for 11 years, unable to have children and with the idea of adopting, upon meeting the girl, seen in her the possibility of realizing her dream of being a mother. So she follows the development of the pregnancy day by day, and they both feel very happy about it. Now the outcome of all these stories is about to happen. It's night and it's raining, while Maggie is on her way to the hospital in labor pains. Lily is also on the road and is going to say goodbye to Joe, who is about to lose his life. On the other hand, Pretty Boy's friend is chased by his enemy, who is wounded by a bullet and falls to the ground, causing an accident of such magnitude where some people from these stories are involved. On the one hand, the lawyer who managed to get the paramedics sanctioned was distracted by her cell phone and collided head-on. Then Matthew and Grace, who were going with Maggie in labor pains, also collided. Seconds later, another vehicle also joined in, wreaking havoc in a multi-car crash. The vehicle that Lily is in took precautions and was able to stop in time, but another car that was coming at high speed rammed it and dragged it, placing it on the edge of the bridge with half towards the void.
Okay, now listen to me.
Maggie is in another car where she begins labor, but the girl is not well, since she has lost a lot of plasma, leaving her very weak, so Grace and her husband help bring the girl into the world. Maggie, in an act of love, seeing that she will not resist, gives her daughter to the couple and dies. Meanwhile, the paramedic arrives and saves the lawyer who won her trial, before her car caught on fire. Carl's the ex-Marine along with others, fight to get Lily and the couple out. They all live moments of terror and tension, thinking that the worst could happen, until after insisting so much they manage to save them before the car falls off the cliff. Everything is over, everything is calm. The lawyer learned a life lesson, being saved by the man she sank. Joe in the hospital loses his life next to Samantha without being able to see Lily, but after 8 minutes a miracle happens and Joe's heart begins to beat again. The doctors are stunned by such a fact. The doctor does not want to believe that God gave him another chance to live. Carl's, the former Marine, with what happened, regains confidence in him and returns with his girl.
Hey, my little butterfly.
Lily finally meets Joe, who tells her that she has a better countenance. She is sure that she has an angel watching over them. Now Lily will have a big family that she will share with her under one roof. This is the summary of a Christian movie called Do You Believe? Click here so you don't miss the next story.